Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to Virtual University. I am your course instructor for training and development, and today we are meeting for the 42nd lecture. You know that we were discussing special issues in training and development. We had talked about legal issues, we had discussed cross-cultural preparation, and we were discussing managing workforce diversity. We had just started that section, and we had talked about the definition of diversity. We had looked at the definition of what does it mean by managing diversity, and we had discussed the two main objectives of diversity management. Although diversity management has been around the organizational debate for quite some time, it has been quite a while that organizations are striving to manage diversity, and various different laws and rules are providing the support for successful diversity management. There are several laws in many different countries that ensure that equal employment opportunity should be provided to everyone without any discrimination. But still, with all these provisions, it has been found the Society for Human Resource Management conducted a research and revealed that people from minorities and people from diverse backgrounds, such as women and minority groups, they face a number of barriers in the organization. So it means that the problem of diversity management, the problem of treating people with different characteristics, the problem still exists. The kind of barriers that have been reported by women and other minority groups are that there are stereotyping and preconceptions about them. उनको stereotype कर दिया जाता है, उनके बारे में preconceived notions लोगों के जहन में होती हैं कि ख़वातीन हैं तो वो इस तरह से काम करेंगी, वो इस तरह से बिहेव करेंगी, वो मर्दों के मुकाबले में इस तरह से डिफरेंट होंगी, वो उस तरह परफॉर्म नहीं कर पाएंगी, उनकी फैमिली रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज़ होंगी, वो उनका लीडरशिप स्टाइल जो है वो लेस असर्टिव होगा, वो लोगों के ऊपर ज़्यादा डिपेंड करती होंगी. ये सब मिथ्स जो हैं वो ख़वातीन के बारे में ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में एग्जिस्ट करती हैं. उसके अलावा दूसरी माइनॉरिटीज़ के बारे में भी स्टीरियोटाइप्स मौजूद हैं कि अगर कोई डिफरेंट रिलीजन से बिलोंग करता है तो वो इस तरह से सोचता है या इस तरह से काम करता है, या अगर कोई दूसरी रेस या एथनिसिटी से बिलोंग करता है तो उसमें ये फ़र्क है. हम अपने आपस में भी ये देखते हैं कि हम इन स्टीरियोटाइप्स और प्री कंसेप्शन से टोटली अपने आप को आज़ाद नहीं कर पाते. हम पाकिस्तान में भी डिफरेंट एथनिसिटीज़ यानी सिंधी, पंजाबी, बलोची, पठान, कश्मीरी, इन सबको आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं और फिर इनके बारे में प्री कंसीव नोशंस को अपने बिहेवियर्स में इन्वॉल्व करते हैं. इसके अलावा हम दूसरे मज़ाहिब के लोगों को डिस्क्रिमिनेटरी उनके साथ बिहेवियर रखते हैं. तो हम भी अपने मुल्क में, अपनी कंट्री में डाइवर्सिटी मैनेजमेंट की प्रॉब्लम से दो चार हैं. इसी तरह से ख़वातीन बहुत से प्रॉब्लम्स फेस करती हैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में काम करते हुए. उनको प्रॉपर सपोर्ट सिस्टम नहीं प्रोवाइड किया जाता, उनको प्रॉपर वॉइस नहीं प्रोवाइड की जाती ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में, उनके लिए ग्लास सीलिंग एग्जिस्ट करती है कैरियर डेवलपमेंट के लिए. हम देखते हैं कि टॉप लेवल मैनेजमेंट पोजीशंस पे पाकिस्तान में कितनी ख़वातीन हैं जो कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के टॉप लेवल मैनेजमेंट पोजीशंस पे पहुंचती हैं. ऑल्दो हम वो मुल्क हैं जिसमें एक खातून पहली वज़ीर आज़म बन के आई, लेकिन उसके बावजूद हम विमेन डिस्क्रिमिनेशन और विमेन इक्वालिटी के प्रॉब्लम से स्टिल वी आर फेसिंग दैट, एंड women do not get the same kind of treatment in organizations, in the workforce, even in the families. So we are still facing these problems to a large extent in our country as well. However, when we say that हमारे मुल्क में gender difference के अलावा बाकी problems इतने ज़्यादा नहीं हैं, उसकी वजह यह है कि वी बिलोंग टू द सेम काइंड ऑफ अ कल्चर. सिंधी, बलोची, पठान, पंजाबी, हम सब उर्दू ज़बान बोल लेते हैं, उर्दू ज़बान समझ लेते हैं. हम तकरीबन एक ही तरह के कल्चर से बिलोंग करते हैं. मेजॉरिटी ऑफ द पॉपुलेशन बिलोंग्स टू द सेम रिलीजन. हमारे एक ही तरह के कस्टम्स हैं, हमारी तकरीबन एक ही तरह की वैल्यूज़ हैं. सो हम उस तरह से एथनिसिटी के प्रॉब्लम हमारे अंदर इतना नहीं है जिस तरह से अमेरिका में या दूसरे डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज में है, जहाँ पे अफ्रीकन अमेरिकन भी हैं और हिस्पैनिक भी हैं और मैक्सिकन्स भी हैं, और फिर इसके अलावा डिफरेंट रिलीजन्स के लोग भी हैं, और फिर वहाँ पर बहुत सारे लोग जो हैं वो इमिग्रेंट्स के तौर पे भी मौजूद हैं, जो कि यहाँ से एशियंस भी हैं, पाकिस्तानी हैं, इंडियंस हैं, चाइनीज़ हैं. अब एक बहुत तादाद में चाइनीज़ हम देखते हैं कि वो डेवलप्ड कंट्रीज़ में, यूनाइटेड किंगडम में, कनाडा में, फ्रांस में, यूएसए में आपको बहुत तादाद में नज़र आएंगे. तो ये जो है उन कंट्रीज़ के लिए डिफरेंट एथनिसिटीज़ का जो प्रॉब्लम है वो हमारे मुल्क के मुकाबले में ज़्यादा मैग्नीट्यूड रखता है. So anyway, what I was saying is that it has been reported that people still feel that regardless of the efforts by law, by organizations of managing diversity, people still feel that they are stereotyped and there are preconceptions about their cultures and their behaviors. Another problem that has been identified by people from diverse backgrounds is the corporate culture. They say that the corporate culture does not integrate them, does not give them equal and fair treatment, and there is discrimination because of the corporate culture. अब corporate culture में बहुत सारी चीज़ें आ जाती हैं. Corporate cultures में आपका interaction का style आ जाता है, आपकी grouping आ जाती है, आपके इवेंट्स आ जाते हैं, इनफॉर्मल इवेंट्स आ जाते हैं. आप लंच पे किसके साथ जाते हैं, आप डिनर पे किसके साथ जाते हैं, आप इकट्ठे मिलके किस तरह बैठते हैं, मिक्स्ड गैदरिंग्स में बैठते हैं या आप सेग्रीगेटेड गैदरिंग्स में बैठते हैं. आप किस तरह से आपका कल्चर जो है फिर वहाँ पर लेट से अगर ख़वातीन के बैकग्राउंड से बात की जाए तो क्या ख़वातीन को उसी तरह से बोलने की, उसी तरह से पॉलिटिकल ग्रुपिंग की इजाज़त, या उनके कल्चर में ये फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी है कि ख़वातीन जो हैं वो इक्वली पार्टिसिपेट कर सकें कल्चर में ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के, या उनको साइड लाइन कर दिया जाता है, उनको मार्जिनलाइज कर दिया जाता है, उनको मेन स्ट्रीम कल्चर से एक्सक्लूड कर दिया जाता है. क्या ऐसा है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में? और ये कहा जाता है कि ये प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई की गई है कि कॉर्पोरेट कल्चर में ऐसी डायनामिक्स मौजूद होते हैं जो कि इन लोगों को, इन माइनॉरिटीज़ को डिस्क्रिमिनेट करते हैं, इनको मार्जिनलाइज कर देते हैं और इनको मेन स्ट्रीम कल्चर में आने की इजाज़त नहीं मिलती. Then they also say that they are excluded from informal networks. फॉर्मली तो आपने उनको जॉब दे दी, फॉर्मली तो वो ऑफिस में आके बैठने लग गए, फॉर्मली तो वो अपना काम करने लग गए, लेकिन एक जो इनफॉर्मल नेटवर्क्स में आइडेंटिफिकेशन है, इनफॉर्मल नेटवर्क्स में इंक्लूजन है, that is again an aspect of the corporate culture, and they say that they are not included in the informal networks the way people from the majority of the population, they are included. So that is also identified as a problem. And then another problem that they have identified is that they have a lack of mentors and a lack of role models for them. These people from minority groups, they do not easily find mentors because they have different set of values. They are believed, they are stereotyped, they are believed to have different personalities, and therefore proper mentors are not available to them how to progress in their career. And similarly, there is a lack of role models because people from these groups, women from minorities, they do not advance to higher positions in their organization. They do not move upward in their organizations. So that means that there is a lack of role models. आपकी ख़वातीन अगर ऊपर की पोजीशंस पे नहीं जाएंगी तो नीचे जब इंडक्शंस होंगी तो उनके लिए कौन रोल मॉडल के तौर पे उनके सामने अवेलेबल होगा कि हम इन ख़वातीन को फॉलो करें. ये हमारी टॉप मैनेजर्स हैं जो कि सक्सेसफुल रही हैं, जिन्होंने अपने कैरियर में प्रोग्रेस किया है, इनको हम फॉलो करें. तो चूंकि वो कैरियर में प्रोग्रेस नहीं कर पाती तो इसलिए रोल मॉडल्स उनको अवेलेबल नहीं होते. जो नई ख़वातीन हैं, जो नई एंट्रेंट्स हैं, उनके लिए रोल मॉडल्स की अवेलेबिलिटी नहीं होती क्योंकि ऊपर की लेवल पे पोजीशंस में ख़वातीन मौजूद ही नहीं होती, और अगर होती हैं तो बहुत थोड़ी नंबर्स में होती हैं और दे आर नॉट विजिबल, दे आर नॉट अवेलेबल फॉर बीइंग sought as role models. So that is a problem that has been identified as a problem for advancement and career development by people from the minority groups. So the problem is there, but we know that managing diversity leads to competitive advantage. We know that employing the potential and skills of every member of the organization, it is in the end beneficial for the organization. इसमें organization का ही फायदा है. We discussed in detail in lecture number 2 the benefits or the reasons why diversity, managing diversity effectively, brings a competitive advantage to the organization. The dimensions that we discussed that bring competitive advantage to the organization, these dimensions were cost, employee attraction and retention, market share, creativity, problem solving, and flexibility. If you would like to recall what we had discussed, you can refer to lecture number 2. These are the dimensions on which the organization can get competitive advantage if they effectively manage diversity, whereas if diversity is not managed effectively, these are also the dimensions on which the organization will suffer, on which the organization will be at a disadvantage, and therefore it is in the benefit of the organization to manage diversity effectively. So having said that the problem of discrimination is still there, having said that the requirement of effectively managing diversity is very important, having said that managing diversity effectively will lead to competitive advantage, where do we stand? Where we stand, the conclusion that we come to is that we have to manage diversity. Now, what are the options? One option is to manage diversity through legal requirements. When you are required by law to manage diversity, which means जब आपको कानूनन ये requirement आपके ऊपर डाल दी जाए कि आपने अपनी organization में इतने % ख़वातीन को hire करना है, कम से कम इतने % minority groups की representation होनी चाहिए, and so on and so forth. So when you are required by the law that this is the minimum level of representation of a particular group in your organization, इतने लोग आपकी organization में जरूर होने चाहिए, तो फिर आप reactive management करते हैं. अब आप reactive management करते हैं तो उस situation में आप कहते हैं चलें जी let's take affirmative action. आपको पता है कि diversity management में दो terms बड़ी important हैं, एक तो equal employment opportunity और दूसरा affirmative action. Sometimes we confuse that equal employment opportunity and affirmative action, both of them are the same, whereas there is a lot of difference between them. Equal employment opportunity is that you are going to provide the same kind of opportunity to men and women, to people from various different religions and ethnicities, races, backgrounds. You will provide them the same responsibility. You will not discriminate them. So अगर आपके पास आप एक रिक्रूटमेंट कर रहे हैं और आपके पास खवातीन भी आ रही हैं, मर्द भी आ रहे हैं एप्लीकेशन के लिए, आप रिगार्डलेस ऑफ द फैक्ट कि कोई मर्द है या औरत है, आप उनको हायर कर लेंगे. अब ये हो सकता है कि मेरिट के ऊपर ही ऑल ऑफ द सिलेक्शंस आर वुमेन एंड ये भी हो सकता है कि ऑल ऑफ द सेलेक्टीज आर मेन. सो अब ये कि आपने तो उनको इक्वल एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी प्रोवाइड की, अब वो अपनी मेरिट पे, अपनी परफॉर्मेंस की बेसिस पे कौन आगे आया कौन पीछे रह गया, ये आपने डिसाइड नहीं करना. आपने इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी प्रोवाइड कर देनी है, आपने उनको मेरिट पे इवैल्यूएट करना है, आपने उनको परफॉर्मेंस के ऊपर इवैल्यूएट करना है. अफर्मेटिव एक्शन ये है कि आपने ये इंश्योर करना है कि कम से कम इतने लोग इस ग्रुप से जरूर हायर हों. सो लेट से आप एक कोटा फिक्स कर देते हैं कि 33% सीट्स जो हैं वो दे विल बी टेकन ओवर बाय women और by men. आप एक कोटा फिक्स कर देते हैं. अब जब आपने कोटा फिक्स कर दिया है तो फिर आपने उन सीट्स पे उस ही ग्रुप के लोगों को हायर करना है जिस ग्रुप का आपने डिफाइन कर दिया. सो अब अगर मेरिट पे, परफॉर्मेंस की बेसिस पे कुछ लोग ज्यादा बेहतर हैं दूसरे ग्रुप के, you will not be able to give them those seats which are 33% for the other group. So affirmative action ये है कि एक तो ये कि आपने fair opportunity provide करनी है. Affirmative action is the next step. Affirmative action is that you are going to give special preference for a certain proportion of opportunity to a specific group of people. So when you are required by law to have a certain proportion of representation by a certain group of people, you have to take affirmative action. Now you cannot just rest on equal employment opportunity. You have to take affirmative action. तो फिर आप क्या करते हैं कि आप एक certain number, एक certain proportion जो है वो उन लोगों का अपनी organization में hire कर लेते हैं. लेकिन ये अफर्मेटिव एक्शन और लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट के थ्रू डाइवर्सिटी मैनेज करना, इट इज नॉट इफेक्टिव. इट डज नॉट लीड टू इफेक्टिव रिजल्ट्स. इट लीड्स टू अ साइकिल ऑफ डिसइल्यूजनमेंट. लेट्स टेक अ लुक एट दिस साइकिल ऑफ डिसइल्यूजनमेंट कि होता क्या है. जब आप अफर्मेटिव एक्शन लेके लीगल रिक्वायरमेंट पूरी करने के लिए किसी एक सर्टेन ग्रुप को अपनी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एक सर्टेन प्रोपोर्शन के अंदर हायर करते हैं, तो व्हाट इज दैट साइकिल. साइकिल शुरू यहां से होता है कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है वो एक स्टेटस को में है. ऑर्गेनाइजेशन अपने कल्चर के थ्रू, अपने स्ट्रक्चर के थ्रू, अपने रूटीन नॉर्मल प्रोसेसेस के थ्रू ऐसा एनवायरनमेंट नहीं क्रिएट कर रही कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में प्रॉपर एडिक्वेट रिप्रेजेंटेशन मिले आपके डिफरेंट माइनॉरिटी ग्रुप्स को. सो इट मीन्स दैट द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन इज इन अ स्टेटस को. जब इस स्टेटस को में है, दे आर नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग टू क्रिएट दैट पॉजिटिव एनवायरनमेंट, व्हाट विल हैपन इज दैट the adequate representation of these groups will not be there, and you will be required through legal requirement to fill up those positions to provide equal representation. So the next step is that managers will identify this problem, that they are not meeting the legal representation. Then they will take action. They will quickly hire people to fill up that proportion, that gap. And after they have filled up that gap, after they have employed certain number of people of a particular background, they will be relaxed कि हमने तो requirement पूरी कर दी है, हम legally जो हैं वो we have followed the requirement. So they will be relaxed. They will not do anything to create an environment. They will not do anything to integrate those people in the culture of the organization. They will not make any provisions for an environment which actually supports diversity. जैसे शुरू में एक environment ऐसा था जिसकी वजह से diversity management नहीं हुई, जिसकी वजह से automatically organization ने अपने environment ऐसा नहीं create किया जहाँ पे diverse background के लोग पहले तो induct हों, उसके बाद वहाँ पे मौजूद रहें. So अब again वही होगा कि ऐसा environment नहीं create किया जाएगा जहाँ पे ये मुख्तलिफ background के लोग जो हैं वो integrated feel करें, वो organization का part feel करें, वो organization में immerse हो जाएं. So इससे क्या होगा? इससे next step जो है वो frustration का create होगा कि आपने लीगली तो लोगों को हायर कर लिया है, उनको ऑफिसेज में बिठा लिया है, आपने उनको अपने जॉब्स प्रोवाइड कर दी हैं, लेकिन आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का कल्चर यही है. ऐसे कल्चर में जब ये लोग आएंगे तो उनको बाकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के जो मेंबर्स हैं वो ना उनको इक्वल ट्रीटमेंट प्रोवाइड करेंगे, बल्कि वो ये कहेंगे कि इनकी हायरिंग तो इस वजह से हुई है, ये तो इस वजह से ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आए हैं क्योंकि ये इनके लिए स्पेशली कोटा रखा गया था, इनको तो खास फेवर देके इनको हायर किया गया है, इनका बेसिकली दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू बी परफॉर्मर्स. तो ये एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में उनके बारे में इम्प्रेशन होगा, और जब ये इम्प्रेशन होगा तो जिस तरह का उनको बिहेवियर मिलेगा वो इस बिहेवियर से डिसल्यूजन्ड होंगे, वो इस बिहेवियर से स्ट्रेस्ड होंगे, उनको ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में काम करने का सेटिस्फैक्शन नहीं मिलेगी, उनको एंजॉय नहीं करेंगे अपने काम को, स्ट्रेस्ड रहेंगे, फ्रस्ट्रेटेड होंगे, और therefore what will happen is that the organization will not be able to maintain this proportion of diversity, this combination of diversity. These people who will be frustrated, they will, after some time, they will leave the organization, they will quit the organization, and once again, the organizational status quo will again, that will emerge. The same situation which was there before the managers took the action of quickly hiring people on the basis of legal requirement, that situation, that environment, that status quo, that will going to emerge again. So it is going to be a cyclical process unless the organization does something to create that kind of an environment in which people do feel a part of the organization. All the people, all the members of the organization feel an equal part of the organization, an equal contributor to the organization. So, having said that, managing diversity through satisfying legal requirement is not effective. It does not mean that managing diversity should not take place through this channel. What is required is that if the organization manages diversity through affirmative action, if it hires people, if it includes people on the basis of affirmative action, there is something more that needs to be done. There is something more that the organization that it needs to do. So, in order to successfully manage a diverse workforce, companies, they need to ensure that employees understand how their values and stereotypes influence their behavior towards people of different gender, ethnicity, race, or religion. So, just by hiring people of the right proportions, that is not enough. It does not mean that that should not take place. It does not mean that that should not happen. But that is not sufficient enough. What you will need to do is to make people understand different religions, understand different cultures, understand different backgrounds, understand different genders. So you need to make them aware of the differences and then make them realize that these differences, they are natural differences. They do not affect performance. They do not affect any other criteria of achievement. But these are differences which are there. These are differences which should be identified. These are the differences which should be appreciated. It is also important that employees, they gain an appreciation of cultural differences among themselves. So they should be able to appreciate the differences rather than discriminate each other on the basis. They should be able to appreciate those differences. That yes, one person is different, he behaves in a different way, he does things in a different way. It does not matter if he lives a different kind of a life, he eats different kind of a food, if he dresses up in a different kind of a way. So that does not affect how capable he is, that does not affect how much potential he has. But yes, these are the differences, and we can gain something from these differences. We can enjoy these differences rather than discriminate people on the basis of these differences. And the companies, they also need to ensure that behaviors that isolate or intimidate minority group members should be improved. So they have to make this provision. They have to make sure that those behaviors which are offensive for the minority groups, for example, some jokes or some kind of a language or some words or such kind of things which could intimidate or offend people from various minority groups, they should be avoided, and companies should take a step to make sure that organizational members do that. So in order to do this, in order to make people aware of the differences, to make them appreciate the differences, to make them avoid such kind of behaviors which may be offensive for other people, what can the organizations do? What is the possibility to create that kind of an environment? So another step towards diversity management is managing diversity through training. Training can also help employees and organizational members gain an appreciation and awareness about the cultural differences. So diversity training refers to training designed to change employee attitudes about diversity and or to help employees develop the skills needed to work with a diverse workforce. So diversity training includes two processes. One is that you try to change the attitudes of people, and the second is that you make them learn those skills that are required to effectively work with people from diverse backgrounds. So there are two types of trainings which are carried out, which can be carried out for effective diversity management. One type of training is concerned with changing the attitudes of the people. And the other type of training is focused on developing behaviors or changing behaviors. So एक training जो है वो focused है attitude change करने के बारे में, और एक जो है वो focused है behavior change करने के बारे में. Attitude ये है कि जो आप सोचते हैं, आपकी perception क्या है, आपका किसी बारे में belief क्या है, किसी बारे में opinion क्या है, वो आपका attitude है किसी चीज के बारे में, which then affects your behaviors as well, but basically you are focused on changing the perception. So attitude focused training है, उसमें आप perception change करना चाहते हैं, whereas जो behavior focused training है उसमें आप actual behavior को change करना चाहते हैं. So attitude awareness and change programs, they focus on increasing employees' awareness of differences in culture and ethnic backgrounds, physical characteristics, and personal characteristics that influence behavior towards others. So the assumption in this is that if you provide people with the right kind of awareness, with the right kind of information, if you provide them with the information about various different cultures and try to reduce their stereotypes, that is going to affect their attitudes towards a particular group. So that is the assumption that by giving them information, by telling them characteristics of various groups, by telling them how the different groups, they have different values or how do they operate, you make them understand the differences and you make them perceive the differences in a different manner. So that is the assumption of attitude-based training. However, there is a criticism on this kind of a training, a criticism on this kind of an exercise, कि जब आप उनको differences बताते हैं, जब आप उनको ये बताते हैं कि ये लोग आपसे इस तरह से different हैं, तो फिर उनके stereotypes पक्के हो जाते हैं. For example, अगर आप उनको कहते हैं कि ख़वातीन जो हैं वो they have a more participative style of leadership rather than a coercive one or rather than a directive one, तो आपके जहन में ये बात, ये स्टीरियोटाइप कंफर्म हो जाएगा कि ख़वातीन जो हैं वो लोगों को अपने साथ मिला के काम करती हैं, वो डायरेक्शन नहीं दे सकती, वो लोगों को डायरेक्ट नहीं कर सकती. इसलिए आप ये कहेंगे कि ये सिचुएशन, इसमें तो डायरेक्शन की जरूरत है, इसमें पार्टिसिपेशन की जरूरत नहीं है, खातून को रहने दें, आप किसी ज्यादा असर्टिव बंदे को लेकर आए जो कि लोगों को सही तरह से डायरेक्ट कर सकें. सो ये भी एक क्रिटिसिज्म है कि अगर आप एटीट्यूड्स के थ्रू एटीट्यूड चेंज करने की कोशिश करेंगे तो ये भी पॉसिबिलिटी है कि एटीट्यूड जो हैं वो ज्यादा एम्बेड हो जाएं लोगों के अंदर, लोग स्टीरियोटाइप्स को कंफर्म कर लें कि हाँ ये तो फिर डिफरेंट हैं, ये लोग डिफरेंट तरह से काम करते हैं, तो इसलिए ये हमारे लिए ज्यादा इफेक्टिव नहीं होगा, लेट्स सेपरेट देम, लेट्स साइड लाइन देम और किसी एक ऐसे बंदे को लेके आए जो जिसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स वही हो जो कि रिक्वायर्ड हैं. सो दिस कैन बी अ प्रॉब्लम इन एटीट्यूड अवेयरनेस एंड चेंज प्रोग्राम्स. Whereas the second type of diversity training programs, they are focused on behavior change. They are behavior-based programs and they focus on changing the organizational policies and individual behaviors that inhibit employees' personal growth and productivity. So, इसमें आप ऐसी organizational policies design करते हैं, ऐसे structures design करते हैं जिसमें ये रिक्वायर्ड है कि लोगों ने एक सर्टन तरीके से बिहेव करना है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल सेक्सुअल हैरेसमेंट का जो प्रॉब्लम है उसमें ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल पॉलिसीज में ये डिफाइंड है कि दिस इज हाउ इट इज गोइंग टू बी डिफाइंड. दिस मीन्स दैट दिस इज हैरेसमेंट एंड इफ अ पर्सन इज हैरेस्ड इन दैट वे that is not going to be acceptable. So it is not just a attitude change policy, it is a behavior change policy that people are supposed to behave in the appropriate manner, and if they do not, they can be taken to legal action. So that is, or changing the organizational policies, and then you try to change individual behaviors. There could be a number of approaches about behavior-based programs. One approach is to identify incidents that discourage employees from working up to their potential. So you can ask minority groups, you can ask people from these minority backgrounds, what are the specific incidents which lead to which lead to discouragement of people working up to their potential. So these incidents, they may be related to promotion opportunities, to training programs, to sponsorships and performance management practices. So आपकी performance management किस तरह से की जाती है, performance appraisals किस तरह से generate की जाती हैं, आप लोगों से पूछें, आप इन groups से पूछें कि क्या आपकी performance appraisal जो है वो fair तरीके से की जाती है, क्या आपको स्पॉन्सरशिप्स, वेरियस स्पॉन्सरशिप्स जो हैं ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में वो इक्वल और फेयर तरीके से प्रोवाइड की जाती हैं, और दूसरी वेरियस अपॉर्चुनिटीज सच एज प्रमोशंस एंड सैलरी इंक्रीजेस और इंक्लूजन इन ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम्स और different activities like that. So you ask them that what are the specific incidents on which there was a behavior of discrimination, and if there, and then you try to analyze why that behavior of discrimination took place, and then you can try to reduce that kind of a behavior. You can try to make your organization, make your environment more positive. Then you teach the employees and managers basic rules of behavior in the workplace. So as I just said, that there are certain minimum criteria of behaving in a workplace with regards to sexual harassment. So there is, you can teach your employees and managers the ways in which they are supposed to treat people, in which they are supposed to interact with other people. They should show respect, they should show concern, they should show inclusion of different different people in the organization. And this kind of training in which you teach the employees to behave in a certain way, in a required manner, that could lead to behavior change as well. The third type of approach for behavior change is cultural immersion. Cultural immersion is sending employees directly into communities where they have to interact with persons from different cultures, races, and or nationalities. This is the most rigorous kind of approach which can be employed to change the behavior of people. You actually immerse those people in a different culture. You actually immerse those people in a culture which is different, which has characteristics of differences, of diversity, and those people are supposed to live the life in the same kind of a culture, and then they will identify what is the meaning of living in that kind of a culture, what is the meaning of these differences, what is the meaning and implication of the difference in values. So cultural immersion is one of the approaches of behavior change for employees, behavior change for diversity management. UPS is one of the world's largest package delivery company and one of the leading global provider of transportation and logistics services. They carry out a cultural immersion program which is called Community Internship Program. This Community Internship Program is a management development program which is designed to help UPS senior managers understand the diverse needs of a diverse customer base and a diverse workforce. This management development program runs for about 4 weeks. So for 4 weeks, senior managers, middle managers, they have to go and live in a different city, in a different environment, and they carry out various different activities that make them aware the needs and make them aware about the situation of people from different diverse backgrounds. And these people, they go and live for 4 weeks in different cities of United States. From 1968, about 1,200 managers have attended this program. They have completed this training. And the activities in this training or in this internship session, they are very diverse. They can be found serving meals to homeless people. They can be working in an AIDS center. They could be working with immigrant farmers. They could be working building temporary housing and facilities, and they could be managing children in a Head Start program. So these are various different kind of volunteer services in which they work with people from some kind of unfortunate background, and this makes them realize the situation of people, and this makes them realize that people they do not always have the same kind of backgrounds, they do not always have the same kind of situation, and see how people manage, see how people live their lives in such adverse circumstances. And when they are exposed to such differences, when they are exposed to such stark differences, they realize that differences are there and we need to manage them and we need to capitalize on them. For example, one of the managers from this training program, she reported that she was working in a rehabilitation with drug addicts. And one of the drug addicts, he proposed a number of creative ways how we can save teenagers from becoming drug addicts, how we can save teenagers from use of drugs. And that person was the last person one would expect to give different creative ways of saving people from drug addiction. But creativity did come from that person. So that manager realized that creativity can be found anywhere. Creative minds can be found anywhere. So this is something that she learned from this development program. And when she went back to work in her routine normal job in UPS, she incorporated this learning by taking the creative advice from all the members of his team and not just his peers or his higher-ups. So she also included subordinates, she also included other people which might give creative advice about a situation or about a problem. So she became more understanding, she became more aware of the fact that creativity can be present in anybody. A creative mind needs to be identified, and it does not mean that if a person is a drug addict or if a person has a different background, his or her mind will stop being creative. So this is the kind of learning that takes place in these cultural immersion programs. And these experiences, they take managers out of their comfort zones. And when you move out of your comfort zones, you realize that how people manage when they are living in adverse situations, when they are living not in their comfort zones. So there are a lot of realizations that take place in such kind of a community service activity, in such kind of a cultural immersion activity. Although UPS has not measured the actual effects, the financial effects of this program, they value this program and they have invested about $13.5 billion since they had started it in 1968. And they spend about $10,000 on each internee on this 4-week internship program. So they value this type of cultural immersion. They value this kind of experience to give a wider experience in order to make people understand diversity of customers and diversity of workforce. The characteristics that are associated with an effective diversity program, we are going to discuss them now. In order to make a diversity program effective, there are certain guidelines that an organization should keep in mind. These guidelines, they come from various aspects of the organization. So the first thing is that top management provides resources, personally intervenes, and publicly advocates diversity. So top management support is really important. If top management is not involved in managing diversity, in making it an important aspect of the organization, and if it does not advocate it publicly, that yes, we provide equal opportunity to everybody, yes, we want to be a diverse workforce, and yes, we value diversity, we value people from every area of life, from any kind of background. If they don't say that publicly, then any diversity management program will not be effective. Another thing is that the program should be structured. Structured means that the objectives must be defined, how the objectives will be achieved, that should be defined, how it will be implemented, how long will it take, what exercises, what activities will take place in that program. that should all be structured. And then how evaluation will take place, that is also an important part of structuring the program. So the program should be structured with defined objectives and defined evaluation, defined ways of evaluation. Then capitalizing on a diverse workforce is defined as a business objective. You define it as a business objective, you incorporate it into your business objectives. This is not a separate objective, that this is a different separate objective of the organization. Business objectives हमारे ये हैं, ये एक हमारा side पे objective है कि हाँ हमने diversity को manage करना है. No, it should be brought in the mainstream objective of the organization, that this is a business objective we want to achieve as part of the business strategy. Then capitalizing on a diverse workforce is seen as necessary to generate revenues and profits. So जब तक आप इसको इस चीज के साथ लिंक नहीं करेंगे कि जब तक आप डाइवर्सिटी मैनेज नहीं करेंगे उस वक्त तक आप अपने रेवेन्यूज और प्रॉफिट्स को मैक्सिमाइज नहीं कर सकते, जब तक आप ये इंप्रेशन नहीं क्रिएट करेंगे, जब तक आप ये रियलाइजेशन नहीं क्रिएट करेंगे, उस वक्त तक आपका डाइवर्सिटी मैनेजमेंट प्रोग्राम सक्सेसफुल नहीं हो सकता. Then the program is evaluated using metrics such as sales, retention and promotion rates. So that is also important, that it should be evaluated by some kind of financial metrics, that should be evaluated by comparing it with the metrics that are important for the organization, for example sales, for example retention rates, and how much people have promoted. So there should be defined metrics, and metrics that actually link to the performance of the organization, the productivity of the organization. So that should also be incorporated. Management involvement is mandatory in that. If your management, your senior management, your middle management does not involve itself into these programs, and it is taken as a sideline program, it is taken as a separate program without the involvement of the entire management team of your organization, then this program will not be as successful as it can be if the management involves itself completely into it. Then this program is seen as a cultural change, not a one-shot program. So ये जिस तरह से हमने पहले बात की थी कि ये कोई एक दफ़ा की एक्टिविटी नहीं है कि आपने लोगों को एक दफ़ा हायर कर लिया, अफर्मेटिव एक्शन लिया, लोगों को हायर कर लिया, रख लिया. It should be seen as a cultural change program. It should be seen as something that transforms the organization, not something of an incremental change, that this is the change that is going to take place one time and that's it. Then managers and demographic groups are not blamed for problems. So whatever problems are there, they should not be linked to any demographic groups के ये young employees हैं या ये senior citizens हैं, senior employees हैं, इनकी वजह से प्रॉब्लम हो रही है या खवातीन की वजह से हो रही है या मर्दों की वजह से हो रही है. ये किसी भी प्रॉब्लम को किसी एक स्पेसिफिक डेमोग्राफिक ग्रुप के साथ आप लिंक ना करें. Another guideline is that behavior and skills needed to successfully interact with others are taught. So whatever program is there, whatever program you are structuring, that program should also include the teaching of behavior and skills that are required to interact with other people. And that should include behaviors that should be learned and behaviors that should be avoided. So people should be given an orientation about the behaviors which are required and behaviors that must never be shown. Then managers are rewarded on progress towards meeting diversity goal. So जब तक आप managers को reward नहीं करेंगे, अगर आप management program, diversity management program run कर रहे हैं और आप उस program की success को reward नहीं करेंगे, उन managers को reward नहीं देंगे जो कि इन programs को run कर रहे हैं, then these programs will not be effective. So people, managers who are responsible for managing these programs, they must be rewarded adequately. Then management collects employee feedback and responds to it. So management should take feedback from the employees, how they are reacting to these managing diversity programs, and what would they want to add to it, what would they want to change in it. Another guideline that should be kept in mind is that the employee fosters a safe and open culture to which employees want to belong and in which all employees can discover and appreciate the differences and benefits of diversity. So that is the final guideline, that organization should have a safe environment. ये concept है psychological safety का, कि how much the employee feels safe in expressing his emotions, expressing his concerns, expressing his opinions in the organization. So the organization should create this psychological safety in all the members of the organization, should create a culture of safety, that if people will express their opinions, if people should be able to comfortably interact in the organization. They should feel that they are a valuable and they are a worthy member of the organization, and the organization and the organizational members, they care about them. So that kind of a culture will lead to fostering diversity, will lead to fostering a positive environment which provide people with such kind of a culture which supports performance, which supports communication, which supports interaction. So the organization is supposed to create that kind of a safe culture. Today we have discussed various aspects of managing workforce diversity. The discussion is not over yet. There are still some components of the discussion that are left, so we will discuss them in the next session. Today we are going to conclude our session now. So until next time, Allah Hafiz.